So the whole KD thing, you were asking me during the break, and we were talking about where guys are going. And the one guy that I guessed yesterday, I put jerseys on all the players. The one guy I put a question mark is Kevin Durant, because I think Kevin's really struggling. And I think Kevin is emotionally, Lee Jenkins told me this when he used to work at SI, now with the Clippers. He said he didn't want to give it away, but he said he's a wanderer. When you sit down and interview him for a couple days, you follow him for a week. Marcus Thompson said this: you can convince Kevin Durant day to day to change his mind. He's just emotionally a wanderer. I honestly believe he doesn't have his mind made up. I think this is very much a LeBron leaving Cleveland, going to Miami, where I remember talking to people close to LeBron, and 72 hours out, they didn't know. Like, his boys did not know. I think Kevin Durant right now, he's looking at the James Dolan. He's looking at Kyrie's kind of flaky. I mean, I really
plus it's the Nets, right? Like, do you really go to live in Brooklyn? And Brooklyn is amazing.
Yeah.
Right? Like, to anybody who doesn't understand, Brooklyn has undergone this renaissance. It's an amazing place to live. That's an amazing arena. Mm-hmm. You know, they have incredible culture within that franchise, and they were absolute rubble before this current group took over, right?
Right.
So, like, all of that said, it's still the Nets. Like, they don't move the meter at all in New York, whereas the Knicks do anything, and they do. On the other hand, you're going to be the first one to play for the Knicks, and they're going to be bad for another year, and then you got to work for James Dolan, which I think a lot of these guys, that are, especially guys like Kevin Durant, that are so active on social media, that they kind of or overreact to the idea that Dolan is involved. Dolan has nothing to do with day-to-day basketball, but once a year he does something. You're like, oh yeah, James Dolan, the a-hole that still owns the New York Knicks, right?
By the way, Phil Jackson's a legend, bombed in New York. Larry Brown's second worst year in New York. Pat Riley won everywhere but the Knicks. Isaiah Thomas has succeeded everywhere. Bad Knicks day.
Yes.
They leave a stain. Mike D'Antoni, by the way, one in Italy, one in Phoenix, one in Houston.
Yes.
A mess in New York.
Yes, Pat Riley. Pat Riley, this guy, and Pat Riley and Jeff Van Gundy, and I know they went to one NBA Finals.
But it's
yes, and then there's been players, right? Amari Stoudemire and Penny Hardaway and Jason Kidd. Like, you go through them, you're like, they've had dudes. They just haven't been able to figure it out. Look, he's trying to figure out who he is. That's it. That's the thing. And I do think that's relatable. He doesn't necessarily know who he is, right? Grew up without a dad. Dad's kind of back into his life. But he has an agent who's a business manager. There's that weird relationship with Rich Kleiman, who, is a New Yorker, and I'm sure selling him on New York and all the virtues of New York. I do think there's this one interesting part, which we may be missing on. There's this kind of old school, widely held belief, and there's some reality to it, which is, hey, you do it in New York, and you're big everywhere.
Right.
Right? Like, Jeremy Lin is not Jeremy Lin if he didn't do it with New York.
That's true.
It is true. On the other hand, like, you do realize that there's been a movement in real money is in Northern California.
Yes.
The most expensive city to live in the country is San Francisco. Why? Right. Because all that tech money, right? Like, in our industry, we're just waiting. When is Apple or Google going to decide, hey, I'm going to buy that?
No, listen, Jason Whitlock was on this 2 years ago. He said, really, the new power base, it's not New York. The media is largely, look at the algorithms. Look what our government is concerned about in terms of voting. They're concerned about Silicon Valley and information. It's become the new New York, San Francisco, and he's leaving that.
Yes, and you also, you don't actually need to go to New York to be big in the NBA, right? Big globally. Like, Russell Westbrook is in Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
And he's huge. He's massive. Kawhi Leonard doesn't say a word, right? No one can, other than ha, ha, ha.
And he's
huge.
No
one can quote anything he said, but he's getting big. Why? Because he won. So I just, look, at the end of the day, if you're not happy in Golden State and you're pissed off because you think they misevaluated your calf strain,
right.
Probably had a partially torn Achilles tendon and they didn't find it. If you're mad, okay, I understand.
Yeah.
But if the idea is I need relevance, at the end of the day, if you come back in a year and Clay comes back in a year and you go out and win another couple of titles, who cares what they say on social media, what they say on all of our shows? You got 5, 6 rings. You put yourself in elite company. And I think now everybody has realized just how important he is to the team and to the league. It'd be great. The NBA needs him in the East. They need a big name. They need a big story. They need the East to be relevant.
It's good for our show. It's good for our show.
But the idea that he needs it, I would disagree with.
So let's talk about a couple of things. In terms, I'll throw this out to you. So this is so funny to me. So Golden State during their dynasty was paying KD, Steph, Clay, Draymond, Iggy, even Sean Livingston made $8 million. They had enough money to add Boogie Cousins. Back-to-back Miami Heat dynasty. LeBron made 19, D-Wade 18, Chris Bosh 19. They paid Ray Allen, Battier, Udonis Haslem. Mike Miller made $5.8 million. Joel Anthony made 4. 8 guys made money. Okay. With the Lakers, they have only 5 guys on the roster and only $23 million left, and I'm told they can't afford another max. And if they do sign D'Angelo Russell for under the max, they'll be out of money. That tells me, despite what the Lakers and their PR people are shoving, they messed up the cap thing.
I don't think there's any doubt, but like, let's be honest about the Golden State thing, okay?
Yeah.
Like, what helped them was Draymond was drafted in the second round, so there was a limit to what they could pay him. Steph Curry's second contract, was it 4 years, $44 million, because he had so many ankle problems, he didn't get the huge deal. And so that allowed them to go and make some of these other deals. And then once you have a player, now you can pay him whatever and go into luxury tax if you want. Whereas that's not the way it worked out in L.A. So, and there's still a chance here for a sign and trade, even with Kemba, because look, it's been widely reported today that even if Kemba leaves Charlotte and goes to Boston, which is his rumored preferred destination, Charlotte still has to act like they're over the cap. Whereas if they sign and trade him, now they can have assets back in return. They can kind of
But if the Lakers signed a Kemba or D'Angelo, they would virtually have no money for a fifth starter.
Well, no, you have a mid-level exception. There's other ways in which you can manipulate the cap. And look, do I think it's a bad look for how it looks like the cap? Yeah. But also remember that on some level, Rich Paul screwed this up. He screwed it up by being so verbose about how much Anthony Davis wanted to be there, and by pushing it, and the pressure that Rob Pelinka was under. They had to make that deal. And you can't, this idea that New Orleans was going to trade with you July 30th, that's not, there's no reality to it. You got to make the trade before the NBA draft. That's how it has to work, because they want Lonzo Ball working out with them all summer. They want Brandon Ingram working out with them. They want their number 4 draft pick, or what they traded the number 4 draft pick, working out for them, and so does any other person. So I understand it looks bad now, but look, they're going to roll out there with Darren Collison at the point, maybe J.J. Redick at the 2.
You think so? Lakers will land those guys?
I think they got a great shot. They're going to count. J.R. Smith is going to get bought out. Kyle Korver's probably going to get bought out. This is how they're going to fill out their roster. I don't know if it works. You know, JaVale McGee will be their backup center. They'll start Anthony Davis as the starting center. But I let's not kill the Lakers until we see what their roster looks like. At the end of the day, they're fired up. They got Anthony Davis. They got LeBron James. Okay. Houston, who's, you know, they're like Marissa Tomei, right? They think their clock is ticking over here, right? They're looking at blowing it up again and bringing in Jimmy Butler, because that's going to work, because everywhere he goes, they seem to love Jimmy Butler, right? Chris Paul's overpaid. James Harden doesn't play defense, and Mike D'Antoni is on a 1-year deal with a whole new staff, right?
Right.
The Warriors are done, at least for a year, maybe then to reestablish themselves. Nobody really believes that Utah can win a championship. Denver's a nice story, you know. Portland, we've seen their ceiling. They're 2 great players and a nice franchise. They're not beating the Lakers, 2 great players. End of the day, they got Anthony Davis, they got LeBron James. They'll get some shooters, they'll figure it out. And oh yeah, by the way, you know, they think that Kyle Kuzma has a chance to be a star playing alongside those 2. I don't think it's a terrible plan, especially considering what they inherited, right? Luol Deng was a terrible contract. They're still paying it. They had to get rid of everybody else. And they have 2 of the 5 best players in the league.
Okay, Kawhi Leonard. Lou Williams said, it's still Canada. Your kids are in schools in Canada. You know, you're in a Canadian bank account. You turn on the TV, it's Canadian news. Yeah. You think, I mean, what's your takeaway on his opinion?
I mean, Lou Williams is only working for $8 million. And if you listen to the podcast, he talked about it. He's like, look, I was happy. I love playing for Doc. Could I fight over more money? Sure, but he took a minimal kind of extension, and he didn't fight it. So, I mean, again, I know I'm biased. I'm from Southern California. Yeah. Kawhi's from Southern California, but he's from the Inland Empire, where it's like 140 degrees in the summer. Yeah. And if you're from the IE and somebody goes like, hey, what if you could make $30 million, live at the beach, and play for the Lakers, never have a winter coat? or play for the Clippers, never have a winter coat, or you can play where they have their country's dish is poutine. I'm going to take L.A. and tacos every day.
No, I get it. No, I do get it. I think there's a certain allure. New Yorkers, you can't ever get New York out of the body. That's who you are. You grow up in Los Angeles, man, it's cold everywhere. There's no question. Doug Gottlieb, Hour 2, Rob Parker, Chris